Hello, welcome to my couch. I'm Yael, and today I'm excited to talk to you about how to be a better, active, and supportive listener. And I'm going to focus specifically on situations where a friend or a family member or a coworker is coming to you with a problem or negative emotions. So this is less about listening to someone talk about the movie that they just watched. It's really more about how to be there for people and make them feel heard in situations where they're vulnerable or going through something. And this has been so impactful in my life. When I was younger, I was the friend that people would come to tell their secrets or to talk about the hard stuff. And so I sort of naively thought that I must be a pretty good listener. Boy, was I wrong, because when I went to college, I studied psychology and I staffed a mental health hotline for years. And we had to do hundreds of hours of mandatory training by licensed therapists. So I'm not a licensed therapist, but I've been trained by some on how to be a good listener and how to support really strangers that are calling in and talking about their problems. And I realized I was actually missing a lot of skills in this area. And it really is a skill that you can sharpen. It's not just something that you're born with, it's a muscle that you strengthen via exercise with more intentional conversations and intentional listening. I gotta say, that experience and those trainings completely transformed my life. I think they've made me a better friend. And I also think they really helped me in my career because now I'm a NYC based singer songwriter and I'm trying to make connections and find community, and being able to gain trust right away, I think is essential to that. And in the workplace, I used to work in tech for many years as a product manager and then a people manager as well. And making your customers feel understood allows you to really get at the challenges that are painful for them so that you can solve for them. It also allows you to manage interpersonal conflict much better. For example, if a project is not on track and you want to motivate a team around getting there, you want to be able to listen to where they're at and what they think is going well or not going well and be collaborative in that way. And also, I would say one of the biggest frustrations for people in the workplace is interpersonal conflict and not getting along with a coworker. And I think being able to have a trusting conversation where you really hear them out is a great way to build better relationships. So there's so many reasons to become a better listener. And if you clicked on this video, it already indicates to me that this matters to you and you want to be there for the people in your life, and you're thoughtful about the way you interact with those around you. And that is music to my ears. So I'm really excited to share with you some of the lessons that I learned from staffing a hotline, because I think everyone should have access to this information. And the first lesson is to not solution immediately. This is the most common mistake I see people making, and I have done the same thing. I think it comes out of a good intention where someone is going through a hard time and you want to fix their problem, but you have to realize at some point, like, it's not really your role, and actually you can end up invalidating their experience. So what happens when you solution immediately? Someone comes to you and they say, "Hey, I'm feeling really down. I'm having a really hard day." And you say, "Well, have you tried yoga? Or did you eat today? Or what if you, let's go to the movies, right? Like, that'll make you feel better." What can happen is you're glossing over the validation piece, which is essential, which we'll talk about in just a second, but you're also kind of simplifying the problem for them, because they're smart that, if it was a simple solution, they probably would have thought to do that. And maybe they did think to do that and they tried it and it didn't work for them. Or maybe there's a reason that that would work for you, but it wouldn't work for them, right? Like, they know themselves best. And in fact, for that reason, when I staffed the hotline and I'm talking to strangers, like, they don't even have to reveal who they are to me on the phone. We were forbidden from giving advice because you don't know them intimately, and so you actually don't know what's best for them. And with your friends or coworkers, okay, maybe you know them a little bit better, but they still know themselves better than you, and the goal is really to help them find their own solution based on what feels right for them. It's not for you to fix their problems. And don't worry, that sentiment of trying to solve the problem is a good one. But the reality is, the better you understand the problem, the better you'll be able to come up with a solution together. Which is why I say it's not only about not solutioning, but it's not solutioning right away. Like, give it a little space, ask some questions, learn a little bit more about what they're going through, what they've tried, and let them come to you asking for advice or asking to brainstorm solutions. When I staffed the hotline, that was totally valid, right? Like, if someone felt really stuck and they wanted advice, we couldn't give advice, but we could say, okay, let's brainstorm a few options and then they can pick what feels right for them. It still gives them that sense of control that comes from a place of them knowing the answer better than you. The second most common mistake that I see people making is immediately sharing their experience. And this is so common. I mean, how many times has someone come to you and said, "I'm having trouble with this person I'm dating. I can't tell if I like them. They did this thing, but I like don't know whether to read into it." And then your first instinct is to say, "Well, actually, that reminds me of a time when I was dating this person and they acted kind of similarly, and here's what I did and here's what happened." It comes out of a place of like wanting to connect with a person and wanting to relate and thinking that if you share your experience, which is very similar, you're basically like imparting wisdom for this person. But what can end up happening is you take away from their spotlight. Like they're coming to you with an issue, and now you've made it about yourself. And in fact, your experience that may seem relevant might not be relevant at all because they're a different person and they're going through different circumstances and they're probably interpreting those circumstances differently, and what worked for you might not work for them. So I would caution against sharing your experience right away. I think if they were to ask, have you ever gone through something similar? That is a permission for you to share, your past experiences, and maybe they will relate to that. And sometimes it can help make someone feel less alone. So use your judgment. But again, it is kind of a way of solutioning from your point of view. And being a supportive listener is really about sitting with the person's emotion and experiences and respecting that as a singular thing that you're not going through yourself, right? And helping that person come to their own conclusions. So next we're going to transition into what you should do. And the number one thing is validation. So there are three different purposes of validation. The first is literally to indicate to the person that you're listening to that you physically hear them. So imagine if you were having a phone conversation and all of a sudden there's just silence on the other end. You'd say, "Hello, are you still there? Like, did you catch what I just said?" So even when you're face to face, you still want to give some indication as they're talking, as they're ranting, even that you're still mentally there with them. And a great strategy for this is verbal nodding. That could look like or uh-huh. And what this does is it's just a little glimmer of like, yeah, I'm still here with you, but it doesn't distract from what they're saying, and it allows them to sort of keep talking as much as they want to. You don't have to like interrupt or cut them off. It's not something that I would force. Maybe try it out for yourself if it doesn't come naturally to you. I think I sort of just naturally do this in conversation at this point, but especially on phone calls, like it can be really useful. And even something like yeah, totally agree. Helps give some sort of validation to what they're saying. So something maybe for you to try out. The second purpose of this is, and this is just how I interpret the word validation, it's really like a positive affirmation of what the person is saying. So if they start to rant to you about a fight that they had with their mom, like, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, I totally agree. That does sound frustrating. Is a way to reflect back that you hear the emotional tone of what they're saying and you're following. And then the last purpose is to confirm your understanding of what they're trying to express to you. So every conversation ultimately is a game of telephone because there's what the person in front of you is trying to express, then it might come out in a different way. Then there's what you hear, and then there's how you interpret what you hear. And all of it can get garbled and jarbled up, and that's where misunderstandings happen. And so validation and you asserting that you're hearing what is being said and sort of repeating it back is a way for you to clarify what the person is telling you and make sure that you understand. So, for example, in that scenario where someone was complaining about their boss on the assignment that they got given, you might say something like, "Wow, like that does sound really frustrating because you already have so much on your plate, and like having another assignment from this person that you already don't really trust would be really stressful." Right? That is a way to reflect back. You're hearing the sentiment. You also are capturing the sort of experience and the story that they're telling you and what they're frustrated about. And they may correct you and they may say, "Oh, actually, no, it's not my boss, it's my coworker. You misheard," right? And that's not a bad thing. That is how you confirm your understanding and get it even sharper and sharper. And this, by the way, in a workplace happened to me all the time when I was talking to customers is I would repeat back my understanding and sometimes it included assumptions and then they would correct me. And eventually, slowly, we'd get to the right version of events or the right problem statement. And that's how we'd be able to solve the problem together. I think it's the same way in conversations with your friends or your family. The fourth skill is mirroring. And if I double click on that last point that we just talked about, it's really about restating what the person has said in their words. But mirroring can also extend to body language, to tone, and again, to speech. So, mirroring of body language can mean if someone is sitting down, you want to sit down and get on their level. If someone's standing up, you want to stand up. Mirroring tone doesn't always make sense. Like if I was talking to someone who was manic per se, like it doesn't make sense for me to also be like, talking much faster. But certainly, like if someone is in a low mood or low state or talking slower, maybe you want to talk a little bit slower. Or if someone is really stressed out, again, maybe you want to talk a little bit more calmly to like calm them down through your tone of voice. So think a little bit about where they're at and what you could do to either match or support them with your energy and with your posture. And the last example of mirroring is literally with speech. And by that, I mean repeating the exact words that were used, not verbatim. That would be awkward, right? If someone was like, I feel sad, and you were like, you feel sad, I hear you, right? That'd be odd. Um, but listen to what words they're using. If they say they're frustrated, don't say that they're sad back, right? Like respect the terms that they picked. And actually, when I staffed the hotline, this was highly underlined for a few reasons. So if someone is talking about their behaviors, for example, like maybe they say, I am really hungry, but like I feel like I can't eat and I just want to starve myself. I would never bring up the term eating disorder or what eating disorder I thought they had, like because I'm not a licensed professional, I can't diagnose them. But also, they're not in that same place, right? Like they just talked about their behaviors. It actually doesn't matter what labels I put on that in my head. What matters is their experience of those behaviors and the thought patterns and how can we work through those. Similarly, if someone disclosed an experience of RAPE, I'm not going to say the word because of YouTube's rules, I wouldn't be able to share that back or tell them that this is what happened because clearly, like, they haven't come to terms with that being the thing that occurred. And so I don't want to put words in their mouth because I didn't have that experience. And also, I could end up triggering them in a really unnecessary way. So, really take care of the words that are being used and reflect them back. And that is a way to indicate to the other person that you heard exactly what they said and you were really carefully paying attention to them. The fifth tip is to ask follow up questions. And this comes back to that idea that the better you understand the problem and the more you let them fill you in on their experience, as opposed to inserting yourself into their experience, the better the solution will be. And sometimes, by the way, conversations don't end in a solution. Like sometimes the best form of listening and supporting someone is neither of us have the answer and you just sort of sit in the darkness together and that can make someone feel held as well. Sometimes there isn't anything to do, but if you are trying to support them in figuring out how to support themselves, asking follow-up questions is a great way to indicate that you heard exactly what they were saying. The more specific the questions, the more intently sort of you were listening. And specifically, I would, before offering anything, ask, what have you tried already? Has this happened before? What's the plan for tomorrow? How does it feel right now? Right? How does it feel talking about this? This is sort of the classic therapist will ask, like, as soon as you say anything, like, how does that make you feel? That's a good question, but you can go even deeper, and it's another way to sort of confirm your understanding of the situation. So if someone were to come to me and say, my anxiety is getting much worse, like, I don't know what to do about it, I might say, that sounds really hard. Like, what does that feel like in your body? Are you noticing any triggers for that anxiety? And then maybe they'll say, anytime I get a text from my boyfriend, I get really nervous about what it's going to say because we just had a fight. I might start by validating, like, oh, it makes sense that you feel stressed because you just had a fight, and that's stressful. And so every time you get a text, you think of the fight. That totally checks out. Is it just a physical sensation? How are you feeling about the relationship? Right. So the questions are always tailored to the scenario, but it allows you to sort of follow their line of thinking. And sometimes being able to talk it out themselves, maybe they haven't even thought of these questions, right, is going to help them figure out what the next move is and how to help themselves feel better. Last but not least, if someone came to you with something vulnerable, you can thank them for sharing. Sometimes it can be really scary to talk to someone about the things that you're going through, and listening to them and being able to hear what they're saying is really a privilege. And it's free to be appreciative of that. And it'll make them feel safe coming to you in the future. And it might make them feel comforted that despite them complaining and ranting and having negative emotions, you're still there for them and you still want to hear about their life and their struggles. And that doesn't change your relationship. So, those were my tips and tricks for being a better listener. And just a reminder that you deserve to feel heard too, especially if you've just talked to someone about something really hard that can take a toll on you. When we staffed in the hotline, we were forced to go to a weekly meetup where we talked about the experiences that we had and how they made us feel and how they affected us. And it's really important to have that support for yourself as well. So definitely take care of yourself and let me know in the comments if any of this resonated, if you learned anything, if I missed anything, if you have any tips and tricks to share about being a better listener. And I'll see you in the next video.